Find us on your socials and let's connect.
Empowering listeners from the US to the UK. Live on air with Stephen Cuoco.
Hi, this is Dan Aykroyd. He's progressive. He's beautiful. He's thoughtful. He's intelligent. He's powerful. He's positive. He is Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio.
I never get bored with that intro with my good friend, Mr. Dan Aykroyd. It does. It gives me a chuckle. It always puts a smile on my face. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, no matter where you are in the world. You are listening to Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio and Biz Talk Radio. We love it when you are here the most on Power 98.5. Remember, you can download the app, tune in on Alexa. We are available on Apple Music and so much more. It's a fun-filled day. It's Halloween weekend. The leaves are falling. And do you know it's going to be, I believe, 81 degrees today. It's what I love most about fall, and I really appreciate it, is because it's not blistering cold the way most people think here in the Northeast. Yeah, I believe I will be going to the gym in shorts, maybe my Nike gym pants. I don't know. Definitely a t-shirt. Not going to need a jacket. And I think it's going to get down in the 60s tonight. So, yeah, we still get warm weather. Beautiful weather here in the New Jersey and New York area, all the way up through Thanksgiving. So the cold's not going to really start hitting until December. So I'm looking forward to all the warmth we continue to get. What's the latest in the news? Well, we got a makeup artist, writer, producer. We've got Joel Harlow with us today. Found out about Joel's recent project, Dance With Me, from our good friend Matt Rosevalley over at Shockfest Film Festival. That is happening on November 14th and 15th in Las Vegas. And I'm going to tell you, Joel and I have had a good conversation, an impactful conversation. I find him inspiring. He is what I dub as the Steven Spielberg, I'm going to say, of horror and more. He's huge with special effects. The list can go on and on and on. Movies, actors, projects. And I'm looking forward to him having more films, more projects that are tailored around his muse, his inspiration. He's an Academy Award winner. I mean, do I need to say more, or are we just going to bring Joel up? Here we go. Joel, welcome to Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5.
Stephen, thank you very much. That's quite the introduction. I hope I can live up to it during the course of this conversation, but thank you very much for that.
Academy Award winner. I would like to have that on my, as a title.
It's you know, it's not, you know, it's not bad. You know, it's not bad to put on the resume. It's not why I got into the business, but you know, certainly, you know, it looks nice, you know, when you're scrolling through the list of films to see that pop up.
You are considered one of the most, I'm going to say this verbatim, most innovative makeup and special effects makeup artists and designers in American motion pictures.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I wrote that myself.
You're not supposed to say that. You had a publicist. You had an award-winning journalist.
It's the humility, though. Yeah, I mean, there are certainly a lot of talented, makeup designers, and I'm honored to be in their company.
We've got Dance With Me. Yes. Are you going to be in Vegas for Shockfest Film Festival?
I really wish I was. Unfortunately, I'm not. My makeup designing duties are taking me to Hawaii So I will be there while Shotfest is happening. But hopefully, around this time next year, I can be there to represent, assuming that it gets in, my next film, which is The Spectre of Christmas.
Mm. You are known for Black Panther, Star Trek Beyond, Pirates of the Caribbean. The list goes on and on. Do you ever take a moment, Joel, and go to your IMDb or just go online and just take a step back within yourself and look at your life in front of you and are just, wow, I did this?
Occasionally, when I'm, let's just say when I'm channel surfing and I happen to come across a movie that I was a part of, like the pirate films, for example, really stand out to me as something that I'm extremely proud of. And if I happen to be, flipping the channels and one of them is on, I'll sit and watch it, and, that kind of, the nostalgia takes me back to that time. And then, of course, I am very proud, to have been a part of those films, and then, so many others as well. Like you mentioned, Black Panther, Logan, Godzilla, there's been many that, that I feel very proud of, and certainly Star Trek, the 2 Star Trek films that I've worked on, one of which won us an Academy Award, and the second one, Star Trek Beyond, we were nominated for an Academy Award. Didn't win, but, the nomination, is still, very, we're very proud of that.
Obviously, you went to university, you have a college education. There are makeup artists out there that have never stepped foot into a trade school, never stepped foot into college, and they are doing what you're doing at a different level. Yeah. Do you need college?
Honestly, no. Because I did go to a film school. I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York City. I dropped out after 2 years, but I was going for animation because at the time that I started, there really weren't a lot of makeup schools. There weren't really any makeup schools. Dick Smith, the master, the godfather of modern makeup, he had a course that you could, it was a mail course, so you could, call and send images of your work, and if he saw potential in you, then he would put you on, add your name to this course, and you would get these mailers that, explain various techniques and materials and how he was using them. But, when I grew up in North Dakota, and I was like, okay, well, where do I go now after graduating high school? Because I wanted to be in the film business, and I wanted to make characters. I wanted to create characters. So the avenue that I thought would be, the most fulfilling for me would be animation, because not only could I then sculpt a character and paint the character, but I could also, through the magic of stop motion, bring it to life. I could put it in an environment, I could create the world around it, and I could make it move. I could make it do what I wanted to do. And that's kind of, as I'm speaking to you now, and I'm surprised this correlation hasn't hit me before, that's sort of what I'm doing with my films, is I'm creating a world, I'm creating these characters, and I'm putting them into this world, and, through the use of, instead of animation, through the use of the actors that, that I've enlisted to help me on this, they bring these characters to life, sort of under my direction. So, I guess, it's kind of a, full circle moment, to have started off wanting to create not only characters, but environment, to then doing it at a more professional level now.
We have something here. I'm looking at photos. These photos document Count Orlok as it was demoned by Joel Harlow at Monster Palooza in 2012. So I see this gentleman sitting here. I'm looking at your the way that you are putting this together. The thing that stands out most is how many hours are they sitting, and what do they do if they get hungry or they got to go pee, or like, can they even move? Because this guy looks like he's not allowed to leave that chair.
No, he is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not a torturous process. I mean, if you're claustrophobic, you may find it a little uncomfortable, but certainly a makeup, a multi-piece prosthetic makeup, which is what that is, Count Orlok. It is very labor intensive, and it does take a long time to apply it. But there are moments where you have to sit there and you have to say, look up, look to your right, hold that while I blend off an edge on the, the cable of your lower lid. But there are also times when, if an actor or actress tells me, look, I've got to make a phone call, I got to use the restroom, I want to get something to eat, whatever it is, we can find breaks in the process to do that. And typically, once the appliances are on, there's a nice chance for a break. And then they come back, we start painting. Once the painting is done, there's another break. Come back, we apply the hair pieces, and then wardrobe, and, we're off the set at that point. But yeah, I mean, it's not quite as it appears when they're, holding that pose, and there's multiple people working on them. Really, the time that goes into those happen, the extent of the time, is much, much greater in the building of those prosthetics than it is in the application of those, because, you would have your performer come in, you do a life cast, and then it's a sculpture. I would sit down in front of the life cast of the actor and sculpt, in this case, Count Orlok. Once it's sculpted, I would break it down into a series of overlapping prosthetic pieces, mold each one of those, cast each one of those, and then we bring the actor in and apply them, in sort of a predetermined succession of, like lower lip overlaps upper lip, and nose, it gets overlapped by forehead, and vice versa. So that's really where the bulk of the labor comes in, is in the lab, in the studio, making the pieces.
Now, obviously, when they're doing these films, Joel, they're not filming the entire film in one day. So how often are you disassembling these parts and then reassembling back every single scene for every single time?
Yeah, I mean, the tragedy of it is you spend all this time, 4 hours, 5, whatever it is, putting these makeups on in the morning. And when you take them off at the end of the day, those prosthetics that you've glued on and blended are garbage. So they go in the trash, and the next day it's completely from scratch, because you'll never get a pristine edge. And that's where the illusion comes in, is you have to have a pristine edge to blend onto the performer's skin. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, and I'm sure you and your audience have seen, prosthetic work that is, less than spectacular, where you say, oh, there's like a weird line there, or there's a seam there, whatever it is. That's what you're trying to avoid. And you can only avoid that with pristine new pieces each day. But yeah, I mean, you've got, let's say a 60-day shoot, and this character in full prosthetics plays, 20 days of that. You're putting that on 20 days in a row, or maybe not in a row, but 20 days throughout the course of the filming. It's a lot, it's a lot of work. But, and, it's a funny story. On Pirates 2 and 3, I was doing, Stellan Skarsgård had a makeup on him that I designed and built, sculpted and applied, which was the Bootstrap Bill character. And since I was doing it so many days over that, and I don't really remember how many days it was now, but over the course of 2 films, it was a lot. So you sort of, after the first few applications, you're like, yeah, this is exactly what I hoped it would be. And, now I'm done. And now I got to do it for another, let's just say 40 days. So I started changing the paint job. Sometimes it was more blue, sometimes it was more green, sometimes it was more yellow. Just because that artist, fire within me wanted to, do something new, so, and obviously it had to look like the same character, but it's in different lighting scenarios and in, each shot or each scene. So I could get away with that. I didn't change it so much that like now it's plaid or, now it's a rainbow, but enough that I was like, oh, I can exercise my, artistic muscle today by painting it more green or by painting it more yellow or what have you.
I did a piece a while ago, or an article on Colin Farrell with the Penguin, and I want to read something that I had written and to get your thoughts on this. Sure. Farrell vividly recalled his initial transformation into the Penguin for the Batman. The intricate process, which occurred 6 months before filming, required approximately 8 hours and the expertise of 10 to 11 artists. As production commenced, the time needed for this metamorphosis was reduced to 5 hours. When the HBO series was in production, a transformation process had been simplified to just 3 hours. Can you relate? Has that been your experience with these
Absolutely.
films?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they're talking 8 to 10 artists, what they may be talking about when they say, they may be talking about the lab work. You had 8 to 10 people in the lab building the piece, because you're not going to have 8 to 10 people around an actor, at a single time. That's, there's just no room for that. And you get more, I think, with less, but certainly the time discrepancies there, I can absolutely relate to, because, when you're starting, you haven't put the makeup on yet, this is day 1 of 50. There's still a lot of figuring out, and that figuring out continues for, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, each day. So as you continue to apply the makeup, it gets progressively faster. I had a makeup on Star Trek Beyond that was on my stepdaughter, Ashley, who played this character called Natalia, had, sort of nautilus shell on her head. And she was only in one scene, basically one shot. I had done a test on it. That test took about 10 hours. And we got it down to about 8 hours when we did it on the day. So, I mean, if we had continued to apply it, over the course of the entire film, I could probably have gotten it down to about 3 hours. But there was still a lot of discovery happening as I was applying it, certainly for the test, the 10-hour day, and then also for the only shoot day, the 8-hour day. There's still a lot of playing around, a lot of, trial and error. A lot of, do I put this color here? Do I go darker with this? Is it too dark? Because it's pretty hard to come back from too dark. So you got to do it all sort of incrementally. Whereas if I had done it, 20 days in a row, I know how far to go with it. And I could do that instantly, as opposed to like a little bit. It's like, cooking, I would imagine. It's like, how much salt is too much salt? You only know when it's too much salt.
I assume you have to be extremely keen on self-editing. Do you feel that you've ever mastered that, or is that something that changes with every single project? Because it goes back to our conversation before that we had, is you're always pushing yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always changing, because no two projects, offer the same obstacles or the same opportunities. So, certainly techniques I've picked up in the past I can apply, but, even if I'm applying the same character, in two different movies, it's still going to change. It's still different. Time has passed. Faces change. Everything changes. So I can fall back on my go-tos, but each character, moreover, each application of each character requires its own focus. And I don't think that's something you ever master. I think if you feel like you've mastered it, then you're setting yourself up for the right hook, because it's coming. You got to be prepared, got to be vigilant, and you've got to be on top of it, to make sure that what you present on camera is what you want it to look like. Because once and this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but once you bring a character to set, you don't really have 100% control over lighting, over atmosphere, over wardrobe, over props. You don't have 100% control over that. So you hope that everybody's working towards the same goal, but you've got to be prepared to be flexible. And I think that that's probably, if I had any advice, that would be it, is to be flexible, with your characters. Create them, finish them to the highest of your ability, but be prepared to be flexible. Don't be so rigid in this is my vision when you're serving the vision of somebody else, director, actor, whatever it is.
In the new Alien movie, Romulus, the 7-foot giant that played the alien at the end, there was discussion that they had to take breaks because of the temperature that these actors at times feel when they're in these prosthetics. How is regulating temperature while you are applying, while you are taking off, not just for you, how important is temperature in the room for these prosthetics, for maintaining as well as potentially maintenance pre and post?
Yeah, temperature, is it's instrumental in the creation of the prosthetics. You need a specific temperature in order to make your prosthetic, or between, not a specific temperature, but a specific range of temperature in order to make sure your silicone sets up in the way that you want it to. But then when you apply it, yes, absolutely. Temperature is, very crucial, because the second you start heating up, typically what happens? You start to sweat, and, nothing is going to break that barrier between the skin and the prosthetic. Nothing's going to break down that glue like sweat. So you want to keep that to a minimum. All the elements, play into that. You've got a character that's in the ocean. Now you've got salt water work on. Water erodes mountains. Fragile silicone prosthetic, needs to be watched very closely in order to get the shots that you're after before it starts to come apart, starts to show its age. All of that, and we have fans on set. If we're in, a heated environment, we can cool down our performers with fans, or, if you've got somebody in a suit, like a monster suit, creature suit, there's, there are like what's referred to as a cool suit, which is basically, chilled water running through a network of tubes on a thin.
This call is no longer being recorded.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Should I wait?
Go ahead. Nope, you're good.
Yeah, a thin sort of meshwork of tubes that allows cold water to run through them to cool down your performer, take down their core body temperature. But it's very important to keep them, comfortable, and also, to keep them comfortable for their, for them to deliver their best performance. That's what you're serving.
One of the things that that comes to mind, I had this moment before, and I'm thinking about this as you're sharing. It's a lot. I'm processing, but not only hearing what you're saying, but seeing it in my head. And I'm thinking to myself, When an actor is showing up, whether it's you or the actor, is there something in the details that's being sent out to where do not wear perfume, do not wear deodorant, do not wear hair products, do not wash your hair the night before? What sort of regimen? Because that's something I never hear about. What are you supposed to do and not do before and during preparation, and the person where the special effects is getting applied to?
Yeah, if we're applying makeup to somebody, a prosthetic makeup to somebody, what you don't want is for them to have ingested alcohol the night before, because that will come out in their pores, and alcohol breaks down the glue, right? That's usually, we use something similar to thin the glue. So if you start sweating alcohol, then you're basically dissolving the glue. So your makeup's going to come off. Mm-hmm. Another sort of big no-no, and this is something that, I've had to warn actors about a few times, because, and I get it, you put on makeup all week long, and at the weekend, you want a facial. You want to get all that out of you, all that off you. Sort of psychologically. But if you do that, basically what you're stripping your skin down to new skin. So if we then glue onto new skin, it's going to bite infinitely harder. Wow. And it's going to be much more difficult to get off. So I say wait until you're wrapped, and then you get as many facials as you want, but don't do it until then, because we need those layers of, I'll just say it, dead skin, in order to help the glue, when it comes time to remove the glue, in order to help it come off, the prosthetics come off easier.
Has there ever...
And then as far as a makeup artist, obviously you don't want to be eating a lot of garlic or just anything, sort of offensive or any, and different performers have different, sort of preferences or, what have you, as far as perfumes and all that. I mean, I've never had anybody say, I don't like your cologne, anything like that. But, I'm also very aware of not eating in the trailer, don't leave food sitting around, because, all these things have some kind of odor, and you want it to be as sort of pleasant as possible, because the process, I wouldn't consider is a very pleasant one. It can be, certainly dealable, but it's not like, nobody's going to be like, can't wait to relax this weekend by having, 12 hours of makeup, removed and applied to me.
Has anyone ever had, or in your experience, just to backpedal slightly to what you were sharing earlier about, facials and needing dead skin cells, do people have allergic reactions to this, or is it very friendly?
No, I mean, some people have allergic reactions, and when and it's typically to an adhesive. There are several different versions there's acrylic adhesives, there's, silicone adhesives, spirit gums and what have you, that you can switch to, if you find somebody is having a reaction. But typically that reaction, you get sort of heat blisters if you're wearing a costume for day after day after day, even if it's been sterilized and what have you. But, friction blisters, all that kind of stuff. But if you're applying a makeup over and over and over in succession, it could, you could get a reaction to that. Fortunately, I haven't encountered it that much. I have encountered it, but, it's not the norm. We take very good care of our performers' skin after we get the prosthetics off. We moisturize, make sure that all the glue is off, so they're not going home and having to scrub. We make sure that we do all the removal, because we know how much scrubbing is too much. Get all the glue off, get all the residue off, moisturize, like vitamin E cream. and then, do it the next day. But, you've got to make sure all that vitamin E is off, all that cream is off, all that lotion is off, because if a performer comes in with lotion on them, the glue's not going to stick to it. So you've got to astringent that off, and then you can start your gluing process.
Has any of the networks or production companies or the studios, have they ever, if you can share, and I don't know why this popped in my head, I'm just thinking, is there like a liability, things you have to be prepared for? The actors have to sign waivers just in case if there is a medical situation? It's not that intense.
No, I mean, not for me. I haven't encountered that. Fortunately, at this place in my career, the studios know that I know what I'm doing. So I wouldn't take chances that could damage a performer's skin or hair, eyes, whatever. If something like that happens, like I said, it's usually an allergic reaction that you can't plan for. And then you just deal with it. You just adjust course and, serve the film by using a different prosthetic adhesive or, a different prosthetic material. But yeah, I mean, there are, not that I'm aware of, there are no waivers that project I've been on that, performers have had to sign.
We're going to take a look back for a moment. Do you recall, and we're going to go back 4 years ago with you. Okay. Do you recall Stan Winston School?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Take a listen with us.
Hello, Joe. Thank you for being my inspiration. My question is...
Thank you for letting me inspire you.
What skill are you looking for assistant?
I mean, I guess it all depends on what I'm doing. I mean, it's going to be a case of, is it an assistant, for the makeup trailer? Is it an assistant in the studio? I mean, obviously a good attitude, and easy to work with, and, pleasant to the other departments and, and outgoing, I think is probably the biggest thing. I'll just say that right now. And I'm thinking, like say a trailer assistant, an on-set assistant, somebody who can help me deal with other departments, help me, get information passed back and forth, and, they're liked by the other departments, because there's nothing worse than having somebody on your team that, rubs other departments the wrong way, because it all reflects on you, right? In the shop, just sort of a well-rounded knowledge of, materials. Because, I mean, you don't have to be an expert in anything. I mean, that can all come. There are people that are better than me at everything, and the idea is I find those people and try to have them work with me. But having sort of that base knowledge so that I can communicate with them, I think helps. Well, I'll let them be the expert, but I don't want to be so, so far out of sort of the base knowledge of what I'm talking about that, I leave it. I want to know what's going on. And I think a good assistant will have that as well.
How does it feel to hear that from 4 years ago at Stan Winston School? This was a Zoom live, and yep. The title is Makeup Assistant Skills with FX Master. I know you mentioned about Master before. FX Master Joel Harlow. How does it feel to hear that?
Yeah, it feels great. I stand by all of that. I'd say if that wasn't me, I'd be like, that's a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, everything I said then, I would say again now. It all still is very valid.
Just to recap with everyone, we have special effects makeup artist with us today, Joel Harlow. As it has been referenced on fandom.com, Joel Harlow is an American makeup artist. He has worked together with Johnny Depp on several films, including all 5 of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Harlow has also worked as a fine artist, designing sculptures and jewelry for the Walt Disney Classics collection and Disney Couture lines. If you happen to just be tuning in with us, or when we have it available and would like to share this exclusive interview with Mr. Joel Harlow, it will be available on Amazon Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just type in a search, Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco. Anything up and coming, what do we have to look forward to? Not only are you going to be teaching, are you going to be doing any master classes? And then I know you said that there is a project.
Yes, I'm not doing any master class would be great. That would be a lot of fun, I think. But I mean, right now, I'm finishing up, my current project, which is Moana, the live action version of Moana, as the makeup department head. I've got Red One coming out in about 15 days now, middle of November. That we shot a couple of years ago, which I'm very proud of. We built, the Krampus character and all the sort of the denizens of his world. And I'm really looking forward to that one. And then, of course, there's, the projects that, keep me busy while I'm not, doing my day job, which are, my short films and, trying to hustle a feature. But the one that's playing the festivals right now, Dance With Me, that obviously is out. But I should be finishing up this actually it's the 4th one in the series, called The Spectre of Christmas, which is sort of a riff on 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And that one I should have finished by the end of November.
Now, is Dance With Me just going to be at Shockfest Film Festival, or will there be more runs of it before the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's playing on Sunday at Film Quest. It's played at LA Shorts. It's in a few festivals right now. Atlanta Horror Fest, it's around, and now I'm still waiting for some feedback or some, hopeful exceptions into other festivals. But I mean, that film, what I realized is, I've seen it with an audience a couple of times now, and then I've seen it certainly hundreds of times with no audience. And when I see it with an audience, that's one of those films that you really need to see with an audience, because if you get the jokes, it's a really good time. And, like when I've been sitting in an audience and they get that first joke, I know that, these are my people, and, they're going to understand the humor that I'm going for with these films. And that one I think has more sort of sight gags in it than the new one. But, the new one I feel is each one I try to, to make it feel a little more, a little more contained, more, I don't want to say professional, because I certainly have, a lot of professionals working on these, but, a little more fleshed out.
Are you proud to continue to be in the horror spectrum and where it's going and continuing in a way that it's moving within its specific genre within the industry?
I mean, I love horror films. I actually, aside from my early career, most of the films that I've done have not been horror films. I've done science fiction, certainly, with the Star Trek films. Done a lot of fantasy, with pirates and Jungle Cruise, and then there's the superhero films like Black Panther and Hellboy, and but when it comes to like straight horror films, I really haven't done a lot of those. I would like to, But I think that maybe, if I'm going to really, really sort of immerse myself in horror, it's going to be something that, I'm creating myself, because even these short films that I'm doing, that are all under the sort of the banner of old time radio. That's the sort of the overarching, world that these all live in, all these shorts. It's the same group of characters. It's all, sort of nostalgic horror, comedy. They're not straight horror. They certainly have horror elements, but they're presented in sort of a family-friendly kind of way, like the Haunted Mansion, which is obviously a big inspiration of mine, as well as the comic books of, the Golden Age, like Tales from the Crypt and, House of Mystery, all of that.
Yeah, the original, I would say Tales from the Crypt, because wasn't it remade? Didn't they come out with a newer version of it?
Yeah, Tales from, I'm talking about like the comic book.
Oh, okay.
The printed comic books. Like Creepy and Eerie magazine from Warren Publications. Those are obviously an inspiration. But yeah, the Tales from the Crypt. There was the original, and then then the TV show, the HBO TV series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tales from the Crypt and Creep Show, the original, I really enjoy. I would appreciate you bringing that classic back, and in a way that's not so digitally commercialized the way they did on the remake of Creep Show. I just...
I tried. I really tried. After I had finished this last film, Dance With Me, I really made a push to okay, let's get something like this going where these are the wraparound characters, and it's an anthology series that when you would drift into the radio and drift out of the radio within the context of the story that you're now watching. So it was very much like a Tales from the Crypt horror anthology, and I really tried to push that, and through some fairly well-known companies, and I don't know if they just had too many things on their docket or whatever it was. They were looking for something different, but they couldn't see the value in it, which I find baffling. It was these shorts were compared to things that were already out there that I was like, what, are you kidding? It's not even remotely that. And it's done at a much higher level than that. So, it was a little insulting, but at the same time, somebody telling me, I don't understand, I don't want to, help you make this, whatever it is not going to stop me. I don't, and this is advice for, people out there trying to make their own films. Don't let anybody tell you no. Mm-hmm. Don't let anybody say, oh, we're not going to give you the money for this. Don't let anybody stand in your way. Just, bulldoze right over them and do your thing. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a real challenge. But at the end of the day, you can sit back and look at what you've created with pride, and and just think, this thing you're looking at would not have existed if you didn't make it exist. And I think that's incredibly powerful.
And guaranteed someone is going to speak your name one day as to why they either got into this career, why they remained in the career, and or why they had developed and executed by putting into production or a script or whatever it may be, or a screenplay, because of something that they watched that you did.
That would be great. If anything I've done can help somebody, fulfill their dreams and, see them through, then, you can't ask for more than that.
Any closing thoughts?
I mean, I think that was kind of my sort of like closing thought tirade is, I tell my wife, it's, after I work on a project, the project I'm working on now or what I worked on before this, what I refer to as my day job, after I've done one of those big movies, a lot of people, would go out and say, okay, I've earned it. I'm going to buy myself, let's just say like a jet ski or something like that. These short films are my jet ski. It's like I've worked really hard. I've pulled off stuff that, I'm incredibly proud of. Production is happy. Director is happy. I'm going to take as a thank you to myself and just, create a project that's really going to have me working, even harder, but, like I said before, at the end of the day, there's something that didn't exist until you made it exist. And that, that feeling, like watching my short films, that feeling of like, oh, I wanted to see this, so I made it, so now I can see it, is really, really fun. And I think that it's made me better doing what I do as a makeup designer, having done my own films, because I realize, in putting these together, that they require so much work, and when you know how you're going to shoot it, you kind of build towards that. And that's true of the productions that I work on. Having done my own films, I know where to put my energy. I know that it is not all about the makeup, that all these elements have to come together in order to make this world work. So it's not about creating a museum piece, that doesn't, that is impractical when it comes to the production getting what they need. And I guess my last thought, and this is what I equate these short films to, because I pull in a lot of favors when I do these. I have a great group of friends, great group of colleagues that I work with. And I couldn't have done any of these without them. And like I said, it's a lot of favor, that I pull in to make, even one day of these happen. And it feels like, you've got this pinpoint, and that's the day you're shooting, right? And you've got thousands of strings going out in different directions, and they're all pulling in different directions. None of them are pulling towards the center, which is where you want them. So it feels like you're holding this, these 1,000 strings all pulling away from the center until after you shoot. And once you wrap that day, you can let all those strings go, because there's another group of strings, post, visual effects, sound mixing, color timing, all of that then plays into it. And so it's basically making these short films that are like holding a lot of strings that don't want to be held.
Joel, I greatly appreciate your time. I don't know if you noticed, but you warmed up very quickly within this interview, and you did tell me you do enjoy talking. And I said, hey, this is your time. This is your spotlight. Take it. It's all yours.
Well, Stephen, this has been really great. I've really loved this. And, like I said, I could keep yammering on and on. I mean, I do reach a wall, obviously. I'm not the Energizer Bunny. I will run out of steam. But, I enjoy talking about, because this is my passion. Makeup is my passion. These films are my passion. So, I guess if you don't like talking about your passion, then really, what do you like talking about?
Exactly. Well, we're good. It leaves room, and I said to you before, it makes for having a great guest on a show, because that's what we're here for, and definitely would like to fit you in and have you on more often, because there's always going to be something to talk about. And if you haven't thought of a master class before, if there's an episode or something you would like to do or to cover to have out there as a reference, I mean, let me know. Send over bullet points, send over, anything it may be. It would be extremely much a gift to have your knowledge and someone like you to be able to share your information out there, because there are other people that star or give someone like you a platform, but it needs to go further so we can completely immerse ourselves in the experience of a film. And that was something that was highly recognized in the 70s and 80s, where media and people in general made it very clear that they wanted you to know exactly how, why, where, when production happened, and the whole purpose of it. Yeah. Now it's like, here's this film, it made $26 million, on to the next project. There's no care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Criterion collections. You know, they always had a behind the scenes, you know, and I would instantly go to the making of the creature effects, or, you know, the matte paintings or whatever it was. Although those like old school Hollywood techniques that were the magic of the films back in the day. You know, that's always the stuff that, you know, that I gravitated towards. You know, that's why, you know, not to keep going back to my shorts, but that's why I put miniatures in them, you know, because I don't want, you know, there are visual effects in them, but I want that feel, that old radio serial kind of, you know, old movie feel. Like I said, you know, stop motion, matte paintings, miniatures, you know, and makeup effects.
I think what would be brilliant is if you're allowed to have an assistant there with you, or somebody there with you, to get some maybe behind the scenes photos, some footage, whether on a cell phone or maybe a Canon camera, whatever it is, that's not going to upset studio or the department.
That's always the tricky part.
That's the tricky part.
Because we sign so many NDAs, and these films that I work on are so guarded. You know, that's, I mean, certainly on my shoots, that's, you know, I have videographers there, and we document the heck out of them. But, you know, when I'm working for somebody else, it's, you know, it's very difficult to get, you know, because they have their EPK people there to document what they want to see. So doing my own independently, you know, is not really an option.
Could you do something independently that we could get a glimpse, a docu or a biopic or something?
I mean, I've got, you know, hours and hours of behind the scenes of shooting my own films, you know, and building for my own films. And certainly I own that. So
it's time to put that together and get that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. I mean, you know, in doing these shorts, I was like, okay, you know, one short, another short, but they're all in the same world. I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, how do you, if I wanted to market this more like a feature, how do you take all of these and put them into that? And sort of what I came up with was a documentary of making one of them, using behind the scenes from all of them. You know, like follow the journey of this is what it takes. You know, let's see this guy, you know, almost have a nervous breakdown trying to get one of these made, and see what really goes into it. What, you know, to make, you know, sort of a high end short film, you know, that is, you know, is high concept.
I'm doing something here. I think that's high concept. Let me see. Beyond the lens, the untold story of inside the chaos crafting you put in a project, the making of magic, from concept to creation, a journey of behind the curtain. I just went into ChatGPT real quick and just typed that in.
Yeah, that sounds like ChatGPT. I've done that.
Have you done that?
Oh yeah, I recognize its voice.
There you go. Oh, this is exciting. Thank you.
My pleasure, Stephen. This is great.
Connecting. Do you connect on Instagram? Where are you at on socials?
I do. I'm at morphology.fx.
Morphology?
Yeah, that's my studio name. morphology.fx.
Like that very much. The dot doesn't confuse anything, does it, with the search or anything?
No. I mean, on Instagram, no.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Yeah, I've been noticing people are putting backslashes, slashes, underscores, dots and stuff. I'm like, does that like affect anything? I don't know. Instagram's so wacky. I mean, they did another purge. Someone I know, they went from 315 down to 300K. One of my clients had 38.7K followers, and because of Instagram's purge, knocked him down to 36.7. So, yeah.
Why? What were they purging?
They like to purge so-called inactive or bot accounts or fake accounts.
Okay,
but
so they're like trying to get bots out of there or whatever.
Yeah, but they got their own.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so what are they?
I mean, I don't like, when it comes to Instagram, it's like I'm not on it that much.
Yeah.
Because my time is more spent writing or, creating or, digitally sculpting. So I have somebody that, kind of manages my account. Every now and then I'll put something up there, but, please come check it out and, I can start putting more up there. But I do like the idea of, sort of crafting a behind the scenes kind of documentary of, putting these shorts together. And one of the things that I was playing with also was, because I've got these characters, these three sort of main characters, is if somebody, like-minded, with this sense of like, family-friendly horror, wanted to do a short with these characters, I thought that might be fun, is to open it up, to the world, and I'll take care of making the characters and getting that lined up, and then somebody else can direct the episode or what have you, and just expand on the world. But I know that that's something that I would have liked, being younger, aspiring filmmaker guy, that maybe I can offer now.
Hey, you're ready. We already had this conversation. You're ready.
Yeah. I feel ready.
Oh, I know you are.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah. But make sure it's first class.
Exactly.
You need your leg room.
Put me in, coach. Just not before 9:00.
Yeah. Oh, thank you again.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you to everyone who's tuned in to this special episode with Mr. Joel Harlow, Academy Award winner, special effects, makeup artist, writer, and so much more. If you happen to join us later in the interview and not having had been here in the beginning, it will be available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Amazon Music. However, we always like you to come home first, and this will re-air on Power 98.5 satellite radio. Download the app, tune in on Alexa. It's available on Apple Music, and much, much more. Check the schedule on the website or the app when this episode will re-air again as a live. And once again, it will be available on any one of your favorite podcast platforms, and Biz Talk Radio. Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco airs on Biz Talk Radio weekdays 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 5 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to biztalkradio.com or biztv.com. Not only for my show, but for many of the other amazing shows they have. Have a safe and wonderful holiday weekend. Be mindful, smile, dress up, enjoy this holiday weekend, enjoy the beautiful weather. We just double checked. It's going to be 82 degrees today, and I will be having my car windows down as I'm driving to the gym. Stay well, be well, happy sharing, and definitely head on over to take a look at Shockfest Film Festival. and their event will be happening in Las Vegas on November 14th and 15th. Tell Matt over at Shockfest Film Festival that Stephen Cuoco sent you. Take care, everyone.
Friend us on your socials and let's connect.